Iran is, like I just described in a summary fashion for Ukraine, a war that it's not even a war of choice. I call it a war of whim. There was no reason for this war at all. It was based, I think, if I try to understand it, on a completely, let us say, failed plan of Mossad, that there would be a decapitation and an Iranian leader would arise that would say, "Daddy, I love you. Thank you for killing the supreme leader. We're so grateful. Now we're free and we hand over our sovereignty to you, Israel and the United States." That seems to have been the scenario. Very plausible, by the way. But that seems to be what happened. So what is this war about? It's not about nuclear weapons. If you were interested in nuclear weapons, you probably would not kill the religious leader who for 30 years said, "Don't have nuclear weapons." You probably wouldn't start by killing that person. You probably would not have ripped up the agreement that was signed in 2015 and that was unanimously adopted by the UN Security Council and rip it up in 2018 if you were interested in Iran not having nuclear weapons at a time when Iran was scrupulously keeping to the below 3% enrichment and in which there was full monitoring by the International Atomic Energy Agency. So what is this war about? Well, the most important point is that the day that the war started, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the world's leading war criminal, in a literal sense, tweeted that this is his dream of the last 40 years. And I had to apologize because I had given dozens of speeches saying that he had wanted this war for 30 years. I was mistaken because I had not tracked his period before becoming prime minister. So I didn't realize it was his dream, even as he was aspiring to become prime minister. But I did know that from 1996 onward, very explicitly, this was his idea. Israel wants military hegemony in Western Asia. This is simple. It's not a secret. And the idea is twofold. One, greater Israel with unknown borders, but perhaps stretching from the great river of Egypt to the great river of Mesopotamia, according to Genesis chapter 15, verse 18, which some American officials seem to believe is international law, or something like that. Right now, there are about 8 million Israeli Jews, about 7.5 million, and something like 8 million Palestinian Arabs in this land. But the idea is that the Jews should not only own all that land, the Israeli Jews should not only own all that land, but at least a piece of Syria, at least a piece of Lebanon, and who knows what else, because the borders were defined in Genesis, according to Ambassador Mike Huckabee. They certainly weren't defined anyplace else, according to the United States and Israel, because they've never stated what their borders are. Just greater Israel. So that's been the idea. And the nasty, pesky problem of all those Palestinian Arabs, well, you have to kill them, or expropriate them, or exterminate them, or ethnically cleanse them. That's not so hard. It's all in the book of Joshua. So, Joshua's our hero. Why don't we do that? And that's the dream. And then Netanyahu realized in 1996, and he wrote it in a document with his advisors called Clean Break, that this would create resistance. That governments around the Middle East would not like the extermination or expulsion or ethnic cleansing or apartheid state of the Palestinian people. Some may stand up to it. And the UN General Assembly repeatedly declared that armed struggle is legitimate in the face of the denial of political self-determination. Legitimate, by the way. That's UN General Assembly voting almost every year, back in the 1980s, back in the 1990s. So Netanyahu knew this is going to mean war. We're going to have to overthrow a lot of governments to get our way. And we know that the list was 7 countries that was promulgated in 2001, right after 9/11, or probably well before 9/11. We don't understand that event exactly either. But just to say that 7 wars to be fought in 5 years was given to General Wesley Clark, who had been Supreme Commander of NATO forces in Europe under Bill Clinton. And he looked at the list. He said, oh, whoa, yeah, we're going to do this. Where'd that come from? Well, it came from on high, he was told. And the list was Libya, Sudan, Somalia, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. They left off Yemen. But they listed the wars. Iran was the big one to come. But they decided they would start with Iraq because politically it was the most sellable. Then they had to figure out, how do you sell this war, this Iraq war? So they did focus groups in the Pentagon in the fall of 2002. A guy named Abe Shulsky, believe it or not, working with Mr. Doug Feit and Paul Wolfowitz. What a cast. Hollywood could not cast these villains. And they decided that weapons of mass destruction would be the great sell. So that was not a misunderstanding. That was a PR operation. A pretty damn flimsy one, I would say. Watching Colin Powell that day, I said, that guy's lying on national television, which was, I didn't feel great about it, but it did not seem right to me, what he was saying. And of course, it turned out to be worse than I thought. It wasn't a misunderstanding or bad intelligence. It was a PR operation. Anyway, the war in Iran has been on the books for a long time because the U.S. toppled Iraq. The U.S. toppled Muammar Gaddafi, right according to plan. Not according to the timeline, but according to plan. Israel played a major role in breaking Sudan in two. Did you know that? Israel played a major role in the South Sudanese insurrection. Insurrections are organized affairs, by the way. They are not spontaneous uprisings. They are expensive. They are produced by the CIA or Mossad or other intelligence agencies. People need guns. They need training. They need logistics. They need intelligence. They need munitions. These don't just come out of nowhere, ladies and gentlemen. So these wars were concocted, and Iran was the last case. And Netanyahu tried to convince every president from Clinton onward, go to war with Iran. And Donald Trump brags. He says, every president before me didn't do it, but I did it. This is absolutely accurate. You are the stupidest, most incompetent. You bought it. And apparently in the room, when Netanyahu and the head of Mossad were pitching this to Trump, people were smirking in the room. And that's even of Trump's sycophants, who are not the great geniuses of our society. They knew. Farcical. Unlikely. But apparently what they had in mind was a one-day operation. This is the best I can think of it. Trump decapitated the government of Venezuela. It seems like it was partly an inside job in Venezuela. So it was insiders and Trump, and they took one person away, and the regime basically stayed, but it became pro-US. And it seems that that was the model for Iran. And lo and behold, it didn't happen. And since then, they don't know what to do. It's easy what to do. The first principle of rationality. When you're in a hole, stop digging. It's simple. You go home. There's nothing more to do. Just go home. What, Iran's going to invade the Gulf? I don't think so. No, they're not. They never were. They're trying to survive, thank you. And they will survive. This was a lunatic operation led by two madmen, Netanyahu and Trump. I can tell you, inside our government, we have no process anymore. This is a one-person show, actually. This isn't even the madness of the CIA. I actually think there's good reason to believe the CIA did not believe in this, which is unusual because they believe in a lot of crazy things. But I think this one is really Trump and Netanyahu. And Israel wants this war to start every day, and it probably will. And maybe yesterday was the start of the shooting. If it happens, there will be devastation for the world that will last for many, many years if we're lucky to escape ultimately World War III out of this. But Iran has absolute deterrent capability. Iran will shoot back. Iran will, when attacked, will attack back. And nothing that the US or Israel will do can stop that. And that's the basic fact. So it's actually also not complicated. Your plan didn't work, go home. Why European leaders can't see this beats the hell out of me. Why does President Costa write what he wrote today? Why can't Europe say, this was a dumb idea? Stop. They do, kind of. We have to give enormous credit to President Sanchez because he spoke clearly and honestly. And this is a great, great tribute. But in Brussels, not a word. In NATO, God forbid. So this is where we are. You're being very, very poorly led right now. First led by the United States, which is in a complete state of confusion and delusion. And you're breaking apart your economy and risking this society. Thank you very much.